the record.
Good deal. All right, let's start out with a prayer. If you all will join me for a prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for this time together to learn more about an important mission of Waverly Road Presbyterian Church. It is through your guidance that we recognize the needs of others, and it is by your grace that we are able to help provide for those needs. Open our hearts and eyes and minds to ways which we can help in the world, and help us to love others as Jesus taught us. In the name of your most holy and gracious Son, amen. Okay, so to kick this off, I'm just going to say thank you for being here with us this evening to hear from Rachel. She's the director of SMILE, or Rachel, is it an executive director or director?
Either's fine, but executive director.
Okay. All right. Rachel has been with SMILE since it started out in 2018, first as the assistant director and vice president, and she became executive director in 2021. I want to say she works tirelessly for SMILE, always looking out for the interests of foster families and how SMILE can help them. I started volunteering at SMILE early 2022, so I've been doing it a little over a year. And I have to say, I'm impressed with her passion for this mission of the church. And when you talk with Rachel about SMILE, you get caught up in her passion and the importance of what SMILE does on a daily basis. She sees a need and she starts looking for a solution. And I think that throughout this evening, as you hear her talk, you're going to be able to feel that passion and come to understand the good that SMILE does in the community. And with that, I'm handing it over to you, Miss Rachel.
All righty. Well, I will go ahead then and turn on my screen share. I have some slides to help me not forget anything. Let's see. Okay, can we see and hear?
Yes.
Yay! Good. That weird meeting thing for a minute again. All right. So you see our little catchphrase there at the bottom. Just like our vision statement for the church, we have 1, 2 for SMILE and turning love into hope, one smile at a time. SMILE is an acronym, and it stands for Simple Methods in Loving Everyone. And we made it broad because SMILE might eventually evolve into other things. So right now it is SMILE Foster Closet, but it could be SMILE Foster Support Group or SMILE something that doesn't have anything to do with fosters. We don't know where it's going to grow in the future. But for now, you can see our mission statement on there. And basically, we are just helping the families that take in the children, no matter what situation they're in. And we can do that with physical donations supplied to us or, of course, monetary. Okay, so this slide starts in 2018, but the actual, my actual getting into SMILE started a little bit before that. So in 2017, probably around June or July or so, my friend Rachel, who is there on the slide, Rachel Throp, she was a foster mom. She had adopted through foster care. In fact, her adopted son, her oldest, was the very first baby I ever had in kinder music. Oh. And I have been friends with Rachel since the 1st grade. We went to Lincoln together, well, maybe kindergarten, but I don't think we're in the same class. But anyway, I had just, followed her on Facebook. We weren't real close or anything, in our high school years, but she posted a request on behalf of one of her other foster mama friends named Esther. And Esther wanted some place to store beds and large equipment. And for foster families that might need it. she was already starting to collect clothes and baby things and stuff like that in her single wide trailer. So she was running out of space real quick and she needed something bigger. And I said, well, you know, we've got this house and our church hasn't really figured out what we want to do with it yet. And it's got a big empty basement. I'm sure you could put some beds down there. And when you need them, I'll just meet you over there and we can get your bed out. And so she's like, oh, that's great. You know, and she invited me to one of the visioning meetings, I suppose, a smile visioning meeting. So that was the very first time that people got together in a room to talk about the mission of Smile, what that was, maybe possibilities. And we met at DCS. Jonathan Anderson from Engaged Tri-Cities was there, and a lot of caseworkers were there from the Department of Children's Services. Foster moms were there, foster parents were there. It was a good group. And that was really my first introduction to the world of foster care, because I really didn't know anything about it. I didn't think much about it. Probably you just don't, aside from maybe that pang of guilt when you see, you know, things about all the kids out there that need adoption and all that sort of thing. But anyway, Esther stored some bed stuff down here for a little while. Session approved that really quickly, and we were able to do that in about August. Unfortunately, Esther had some health issues, and around Christmas of that year, she brought all of her stuff and left it in the basement and said, I can't do this anymore. So she asked me if I wanted to take over and be the director. And I said, I cannot do that right now, because of course, working for the church and I was doing kinder music at the time. So she asked Rachel Throp. And Rachel said yes, if Rachel Lawson will help me. So I could either find something else to do with that giant pile of clothes that is now in the basement, or I can see what happens. So we decided to see what happens. And Rachel and I agreed that if we did not serve 23 children a month, and I cannot for the life of me remember how we came up with that number, but if we couldn't serve 23 children a month, it wouldn't be worth our time and effort to get this ball rolling. But of course, the first month we were operational, we were 23, 20, 25, something like that. And the numbers just went up, up, up from there. Rachel had a lot of friends in the foster community, so we already had people to serve kind of from the get-go. You can see the aforementioned pile that Esther left me in the bottom left corner of this slide. But anyway, that is how it all began. So before I knew anything about foster care, before I went to the meeting, before any of that, I didn't know a lot about it, and you may not either. So I assumed we still had orphanages, and we don't. We have group homes, which some group homes can be for behavior issues, different problems or different special needs that a group of children might have. So there are some group homes out there, but there are not orphanages out there anymore. You just kind of think they end up in foster care because they don't have any family and nobody wants them and that sort of thing. And that can be the case. And if they're in there long term, that might be the case. But a lot of times they'll go into foster care for just a little while Uncle Freddie in Indiana tries to get his game together to take in a couple of kids from Tennessee or something like that. A lot of people, when they donate to Smile, we get lots and lots of baby clothes and toddler clothes, and people kind of assume that they're mostly young kids and babies and kind of forget about our big guys. But actually, most are teenagers, probably more than half. And most are also more than one child. Usually you're talking about sibling sets more often than just one child. Foster children are all adoptable. That is not the case. The goal of foster care is reunification. So the DCS is up front with it. If you're fostering, you may get to keep the child, you may not get to keep the child. Some do go in to adopt, and that's fine, but you just kind of know you got to run the gamut. It could take 6 months, it could take 3-4 years, but they're not all adoptable. Most are trying to get back to their biological families. Foster children have lots of behavioral problems. This can be true, and it also cannot not necessarily be true. Foster parents are in it for the paycheck. Not even close. There probably are a few out there somewhere. There's always bad apples in every bunch, but we will get to how much they make or don't make in a little bit. So we're going to talk a little bit about what the foster children potentially face coming into the system, depending on whatever age they are, that sort of thing. This slide is going to be focusing on younger children. So if you've heard the term ACEs before, which you probably have, trauma it can result in ACEs, which is adverse childhood experiences. This can be abuse. This can be a divorce. This can be lots of different things. Obviously, if a child has been taken into foster care, that's immediate trauma. They've been taken away from the home that they know, that sort of thing. Often they will have learning disabilities, ADHD, mental illness, especially depression. The rates on that we'll get to a little bit with the teenagers. Attachment and bonding issues. Obviously, after you've been abandoned a few times or even just once, it's pretty traumatic. So they have issues forming connections and trusting people, as you might expect. Coping difficulties with situations that they have, then that's when you might get rocking, you might get chewing or biting, that sort of thing. Emotional regulation difficulty, and this is where you might see the behavior problems when really they can't regulate what's happening. Sometimes the body knows what the brain does not. They could be triggered by something that tells the brain to go into flight mode or fight mode all of a sudden because it reminded the body of a trauma. Sensory sensitivity is pretty common, not being able to really label their emotions super well, incontinence issues, and food insecurity responses. So a lot of the children will hide food, even if they know that they're getting it in the foster home regularly and that it's accessible and things like that. They may still tuck things away for later, that sort of thing. Foster care instability. And this is not just going from home to home to home of different foster parents, but it can also be whenever they do change homes back to the biological family or back into care or back and forth, they change caregivers, they change their friends, they change their schools. Pretty much everything changes about them. Some of the older kids, substance abuse is really common. They are trying, again, those coping mechanisms that they didn't have very well when they were small. They still don't really have a handle on that because they're just teenagers. They're still kids. And a lot of them turn to drugs and alcohol. Most 35% of children in foster care have addiction issues. The lack of education, either they've not been able to use a computer before, a lack of access to it. The obstacles that they face, obviously, when it comes to their education, moving schools all the time, it just slows everything down. Only half of the teens graduate high school and only 3% graduate from college, which is a really, really, really small number. Teen pregnancy is, of course, more common, twice as common in children in foster care than those who are not. Mental health crisis is one of the biggest problems in Tennessee specifically. So the youth are twice as likely, this is worded kind of funny, but basically it says Tennessee's about the worst as far as getting treatment to teens that need it. So 71.7% of youth that experience a major depressive episode in Tennessee don't receive the treatment, compared to 60% nationally, which is also bad. 60% is still not acceptable, but Unfortunately, that's just regular teens. 80% of children in foster care have significant mental health issues. 80%, compared with 18 to 22% of the general population. That is a crisis for sure. But particularly here in Tennessee, where those children are not getting the help that they need. We're in the bottom 5 of the states to provide the treatment for depressive episodes. And that's pretty up to date. That was 2022. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about the caseworkers. The caseworkers are a huge part of this picture, and I'm sure you've heard a lot about them in the news and things like that. But caseworkers, the emotional stress that comes with seeing these extremes of injustice and abuse, I don't think they're ever really prepared for. I wouldn't be. It definitely takes a special person not to burn out super quickly. The challenge of working with vulnerable and marginalized client populations with the communication issues, you know, if they can't pay their phone bill, their phone goes off. And then how do you contact them to keep an eye on the kids or schedule a visit and just all kinds of things. The stress and physical injuries. Most people are not happy to see a caseworker coming. At least not the biological families. And that's really sad when you think that that's their job and nobody's looking forward to them coming. That's pretty hard. They're not going to be able to fix every problem and save everybody, and that is going to really grind on them. They're definitely working for a broken and dysfunctional system that has unrealistic expectations. Their caseloads are way too big, way too many children to be able to serve them properly. It just can't happen. And then that's how children fall through the cracks. They take the blame for basically everything. If DCS is taking a long time to come through with a resource or something either a foster family needs or the biological family needs to keep their kids out of care, that sort of thing, it takes a long time to line up those ducks in a row. This is some statistics from children that have aged out of foster care. This is old. This is 2004. And I think that they have found some, it's probably gotten worse. But post-traumatic stress disorder, you can see that is, of course, up. All of the numbers on here are up for foster care alumni for mental health disorders. Some of the biggest challenges is foster care, that foster care instability that we talked about, where they're changing homes, and poor access to mental health treatment, and the high child care costs. So that's something that we've heard everybody complain about, is the high child care costs just for the average Joe. But that same crisis is, of course, for children in foster care. And if a parent can't put their kid in care, then they can't work because they have to stay with the kid, and then they can't provide the basic necessities for their child. So the report in Tennessee, so this is just in Tennessee, is that the average foster child will move placements 3 or more times in the first 12 months of custody. And that is way worse than all the other states. In 2020, 34% of Tennessee foster children had changed placements 3 or 4 times. Puerto Rico is behind us with 26%. That's surprising and awful that Tennessee is so behind in being able to handle this. I'm sure you've heard on the news about the Department of Children's Services being found to be unsafe. And that's a lot of different things led to that. It's not necessarily the local DCS's fault. If the children there, if they can't find a foster home for the children have to stay somewhere. And where are they going to stay? The DCS office. Well, the DCS offices were not set up to have people spend the night. There are certain codes you have to have, certain things you have to have if you're staying overnight. Only so many people can be in there and that sort of thing. But there was literally no other place to go because somebody had to stay with these children. So that is part of that issue. So back to when we were talking about the pay and that there were maybe any foster parents that might be in it for the money. The foster family that I'm aware of that is fostering with DCS, there are other agencies that are contracted out by DCS, like Omni, Camelot, Youth Villages. You've probably heard those. Those basically have different levels of children and the need that they need, the amount of need that they have. Anyway, so the foster family that I know that fosters for DCS, they get $25 a day per child. So if they had that child all year long, they would get $9,125 or something. As you can see, if you get a baby or 4-year-old, something like that, $19,539 to raise a child for a year. So they're out 10 grand and they're taking care of these children. They're not in it for the money, for the most part anyway. And that is for Tennessee. So this is not a national average. It is for Tennessee. Okay, so we're had some progress after our first year. A lot of progress, actually. This is 2019 to 2020, a little bit of what Smile looks like now. So I'm actually going to stop sharing for a minute and I'll come back to this. But as you can see, we had some shelving built over here. This was our director in 2020, Emily Robach, and some volunteers doing some stuff on the slide for us. But I'm going to stop sharing for a minute and I'm going to take you on a little tour since I'm actually down here in the Prospect House basement, which we call Smile. And I got to take you with me, so it might be a little bumpy. Okay. So I'm going to start here. Let's see. I'm going to mirror me. There. Now I can point and actually point to the things that I'm talking about. So we have here 3 bins that look like a bunch of junk, but it's actually more organized than that. We have our unsorted donations that come in here. And then we send them out in the big blue bags that I've shown you guys at church before, the portable sort bags, and they go out for portable sort. And then when they come in, we bring them back and they're labeled for us. Boys, 40 girls, whatever it happens to be. And we do have backpacks back there because we do school supplies and lunch boxes. This is the sorting area. So when we take what's come back from portable sort, we'll take it back into this area. Each size, gender, and each tote has size, gender, and season. So we have one boys 4T winter, one boys 4T summer, one girls 4T winter, one girls 4T summer. So there are that many totes just in this one little area here. Let's see. Then over here, we've got our school supplies. We've got pencils and scissors and notebooks, paper, all that good stuff. And back here is our hygiene area. So we've got our boxes and bags and things full of deodorant and soap and shampoo, hairbrushes, the whole everything. This is our underwear and our socks area. Their dignity items are underwear, socks, and hygiene items. Those are always new. We will do gently used donations for just about everything else, but these dignity items are always new, which is why the bins are more empty. We need more of these things because they don't get donated quite as often as you might imagine. Now these totes, I'm going to see if I can let you see the expanse here. These totes are the totes that we pack out of. So these totes are probably 4 or 5 of every size, every season, and every gender. So we have quite a bit all the way over there. We supply the new Johnson City closet from this closet. So we supply all of their clothes as well. We've got our duffel bags over here. So this is one of the bags that a child would get. All of our bags mostly look the same. But we pack the week's worth of clothes, shoes, and hygiene things there. Now I'm going to take you over to the shoes. Here are our shoes. We take just tennis shoes currently. That's what the schools want. That's what they need to wear all year long, is the shoes. So quite a bit of those. Never enough boys though. Okay. Let's see. Only thing left is we do have our diaper area. It's kind of dark back here, so I don't know what you can see, but we've got diapers in all sizes, of course. We have our Smile t-shirts that you can order online. Upstairs, we have 2 bedrooms. We have one for baby equipment, swings, bouncy seats, high chairs, car seats, all of the big stuff. And then we have the other bedroom for coats. Coats take up an entire room. They are very hard to store. Okay, coming back to finish the slideshow. Okay, go back to screen sharing here. Hopefully it'll pick up where I left off.
Yay.
Can't hear you. Oh, she comes.
Rachel, we can't hear you again.
You have your mic turned off.
Yeah, she's on mute.
Check your mic.
Okay,
That's
There you
better.
is it back?
Yep.
Okay.
She's looking for catching where we.
Okay. So we talked about the children and their needs, but one of the biggest things that Smile does is tries to support the whole family. Again, whatever that family looks like, if it is a traditional family, a kinship family, all that. The challenges that foster families face is the high turnover of caseworkers because they don't want to work in the conditions they have to work in. So often a child will get a caseworker at the beginning, and that caseworker will be changed to another, to another, to another. Unfortunately, that's even another inconsistency for the child as well, because the caseworkers really do try to establish some sort of relationship with them. Sibling sets versus the single children and age restrictions. Foster families can say, I'm only going to take children under 4. Or they can say, I only want to take older children. And this is based on a whole lot of things, what their house is like, their strict rules of what you can have and what you can't have in your home and things like that. And also what ages their biological children might be and the dynamics there with older children and things like that. Usually it's sibling sets that come through. So you'll have a wide age range, and that can be difficult. There is a large upfront cost in providing for the new placements. Obviously, the things that Smile can provide. So the first night you get a child, they don't have underwear, they don't have socks, they don't have any shoes, or the ones they're wearing don't fit, or anything like that. And we're talking easily over $100 just the first night you have them, if you're going to Walmart right then. So we can help with that for sure. Limited time to complete their doctor's visits, their paperwork, etc. In the first 24 hours that they have a child, they have to go to the doctor. They have to submit certain paperwork. They have to have all these things done. And there doesn't leave a lot of time to go to the store and pick out clothes and pick out things and things like that. There are not enough respite services. And a respite service is if a foster family needs to go to a funeral in another state. It is a lot of red tape to try to take your foster child out of the state. It's it can be done, but you have to get approval ahead of time and a whole bunch of things. So in those cases, they need a respite service. They need somebody else who's licensed and trained to stay with the foster children temporarily until the foster parent gets back. They are not able to get help in a timely manner when situations arrive. Most foster parents in a given area only have one FPSW. There is a lot of acronyms in the foster care world, a lot, but that is a foster support person, FSP, foster support worker. Yeah. So there's only one person for quite a few people, and if something happens, it's difficult to get help. There's not enough of community support. So of course you saw the things when I gave you the tour that we have the new duffel bags. You've seen probably in the memes about trash bags and things like that. And that's 100% true. Children aren't trash. Their things aren't trash, even though they usually have to bring their things from home in a trash bag. We will never give a trash bag to a child with anything. Even if it's just an extra pair of shoes, we will put it in a reusable tote or something. No trash bags. They will get a week's worth of clothing, a pair of tennis shoes, the diapers or new underwear and socks, hygiene products. They can do a winter coat or a summer swimsuit based on the season and availability. We always put in a sensory or a fidget toy, and that was recommended to me by my friend Eva, who is the fosters through DCS, and she runs the Tennessee Baptist Children's Home. And she suggested, as a former caseworker herself, that each child get a sensory or a fidget toy because they've all been through some trauma. And we thought that is a fantastic idea. So we've jumped on it. We can give cribs, car seats, and other baby equipment. This stuff is the expensive stuff. This stuff is what, if you get a baby, you're going to drop a lot of money up front for. As soon as we get a crib, usually it's out. As soon as we get swings, they're gone. A lot of the babies we get, they have the drug addiction issues. They need the swings, they need the bouncers, the things that vibrate and all that stuff. We can provide beds. That is pretty new, and I'll come to a slide on that a little bit later. And we can connect them to other resources, such as United Way's Grand Friends Network. We can connect, it's just a support group for the kinship families. So we can help the traditional foster families, which are the ones that are just taking all the classes. They knew what they were getting into. They were like, okay, we're going to do this. They went through all the checks and balances and they're ready to take their children. Kinship families. This doesn't have to necessarily be family. This can be a friend, a teacher, just someone that has a connection to the child before this happened. And they step up to take the children, usually with little or no notice. And then there's the at-risk population. Oops. How do I go backwards? There we go. Then there's the at-risk families. And at-risk families are the ones that are working with the state to keep their children out of the foster care system. Obviously, that is a population that can be served by other organizations, other things like that. But we find it's really important to be able to try to help those families, obviously, if reunification is the goal. The kinship families. My heart really tugs for the kinship families because oftentimes they will not get a stipend from the state. And normally it's because they're not able to attend and jump through all the hoops that the traditional families have jumped through in order to take the children. And therefore, not getting the money is just even harder. They usually can't take those classes because they're working and they didn't know they were going to get kids. It's usually not something that they were prepared for, and they just can't do it. Again, sibling sets are more common than just one child, so they usually take in more than one. They didn't sign up for it, and they stepped in anyway. There are way less resources available for kinship families. They can't use Cap the Gap. Isaiah 117 won't serve them. There's a whole lot less resources for them. Our at-risk families, of course, especially around here, there are addiction issues. But poverty is just as common. They're always worried and stressed, of course. If you don't have money, you're going to do that, but also more so that the state is involved, because the only families that we will help in the at-risk category are ones that are working with the state or have one of the affiliates that we have a memorandum of understanding with, such as the Branch House Domestic Violence Center. If they get somebody who has children come through the domestic violence program, those children are at risk, we will serve them right away. Mental health is a big problem for the at-risk families, and some because they have mental health that's not being treated. Communication obstacles. Remember, I mentioned that caseworker that can't get a hold of the family because they couldn't pay their phone bill, and so their phone is off, or all that, and they get labeled as not being able to take care of their kids because they didn't show up to the school meeting, or they didn't show up to this, that, or the other that they didn't know about because of communication issues. So SMILE can help by providing these at-risk families with those basic needs at no cost. The ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and it is true. And it does save time for the people involved, money for the state, but most importantly, the trauma for the children if we can keep them with the ones that they love and that love them, but just can't quite hack it. So why do we even need to be here, really? Again, not just the children need to be supported, but those families that take them in, because they won't keep fostering if they don't feel supported. And there won't be anybody to take these children. There's already not enough. We can ease the financial strain on those families that take them in by providing them with support, and get that stuff to them really fast. That first 24 hours that they have the child, they're trying to get to know the child. They need to bond with the child, and already the child has issues bonding. So it takes a lot more effort and work, and we can just help with that. So the foster parents getting paid by the state, I kind of already talked about this a little bit. Only in specific situations, which is usually the traditional foster family. And they get the monthly stipend, which is referred to as the board payment. The child can receive a biannual clothing allotment in addition to the board payment every 6 months, but it comes in the form of a Walmart gift card. And you can only get so many things at Walmart. You can't get name brand things that the teenagers would really want to help them fit into this brand new school they're going to, that they don't want to show up in their Walmart sneakers. Kinship families can receive, if they can attend those classes, a smaller board payment. They won't get as much, but they could get something. Oops. Okay. Poverty lands the families in the at-risk category, the poor health, medical debt, unemployment, all these things that can land the families in the at-risk category. The state is not going to pay them any money, obviously. They just provide them the social worker that can help connect them with resources like us and other resources out there so that they can try to keep their kids out of the system. So how do they get our stuff? The requesting is easy. It is online. They can pick up between here at Kingsport or Johnson City, which is hosted by Heritage Baptist Church on Rome Street. We just had a soft opening for that in January. They list all the sizes on their preferences on the form, and then we'll pack them the bag. Usually we shoot for about a week's worth of clothes, at least to get them through the school week, so they don't have to do laundry till the weekend. Hygiene items and tennis shoes. The duffel bag was left in our drop box for them, which has been very convenient because it might be that the foster parent works a night shift and can't come by and pick it up until 10 or 11, or they don't live near here and they need to travel to get here and they can't be here when I'm here. SMILE is not a one and done service, and they can request from us as long as the child is in state care. the season changes and growth spurts, we can keep helping them, in part because of the donations that we get that are used. This is just a picture of our form. You can kind of see what we ask of them. We never know any child's name. We never know any identifying factors about them really, other than their age, their size, and if they have preferences like they don't like the color pink, or won't wear a dress or something like that. We ask what county they're from so we can try to build our stats and see what we're serving, where we need more closets, things like that. Their urgency of request, if they just got the child, they probably need it ASAP, so that is an option. They may be able to take 2 or 3 days, and that's fine too. So this is the Johnson City branch. It is, of course, quite a bit smaller than us. They are open only to serve. They are not taking donations because we fully stock them. So they have a room dedicated to Smile, and it is the satellite location for Smile in Johnson City. So what about these donations? We have this lovely handy dandy donation calendar over here, which Amy pulls from every month to put stuff in the news sheet of what we're taking for the month. And we do that to avoid becoming overwhelmed. Our bins over here aren't that big, and we try to keep it flowing. If we run out of something, we'll ask on social media, and urgent needs list on Amazon that we have that we always update. We will take gently used clothes of all sizes and all seasons, just tennis shoes, and we have big teens, so we can use big shoes. I just ordered a pair of size 18 shoes. I've done that twice now in 3 months, size 18 shoes. One for a child in Memphis that was from here, but as I said, we do have not group homes, but behavioral facilities and mental facilities. And one of those is in Memphis. So even if the child's from here, sometimes the caseworker has to take it all the way to Memphis. That does happen. We will not take rips, holes, stains, or tears. No used socks or underwear. Again, our dignity items are only new. And this is one that you might not have thought of, but we don't take experience shirts. So this is somebody's beach trip that the kid didn't get to go on. They donated blood, ran a 5K. These are not experiences that the child got to have. It's a different mindset than working with the homeless or the, people in poverty and things like that, where, you're like, oh, beggars can't be choosers. These children are not beggars. They did nothing. They made no decisions to land them in the predicament that they're in. So we just want to give them the best of what we've got. So if you want to make donations, you can drop them off here. I'm here from 9 to 12, Monday through Friday, or you can leave them in a drop box, but you got to message me first because there's a lock on it and I have to tell you how to get in. Why do we do used? I get this question quite a bit, actually. Isaiah 117 only does new. That's something that they wanted to do, and that's great. If we could do a week's worth of new clothes, that'd be awesome. But they do a couple of outfits. Not everybody can foster, but everybody can help. And taking used items means everybody can contribute and be a part of the solution as a community. And they can get involved, not just with money, though we really do like that, but getting hands-on involved with the problems, coming and helping sort, just even going through their own clothes at home. That's physically doing something to address the problem, even if they don't have any money. Accepting gently used things means we can get those Nike shoes and those Under Armour hoodies, and they don't have to just wear the Walmart shoes that they had to get with their clothing allotment that they got. We do have a severe textile industry problem. And this is also our little way of trying to fight that little big, huge problem just a little bit. The kids really do grow so fast. Most of the stuff hasn't been worn much at all. So there's our duffel bags again, and there is the drop box. This is right by the garage door here at the Prospect House around the back. And there is a lock right here. So we will be glad to tell you how to get into that if you want to leave items. On to beds. So when siblings are taken into a home, the state requires that every child have their own bed, no exceptions for the traditional families. Kinships can have a little more wiggle room sometimes. Each gender has to have their own room, and each child has to have their own bed. So this is the first time probably where we start to see siblings getting separated. If the foster home cannot accommodate all the children, then they will get separated. And when they get separated, they usually do not end up back together until they're reunified with their biological family, if that ever happens. It's too much work for the state. They consider it an extra trauma. If little Joey's already gone with this family and Susie's gone with this family, then Joey would have to leave this family and go to Susie. And that's another trauma because Joey's now used to this family and all that stuff. So anyway, beds is something that we got asked for all the time. And we made it our dream to have it. We've applied for grants and we received a couple. So that we could start doing bunk beds and, bunk beds and go vertical. Okay, it didn't want me to stay on the bed thing, but anyway, really quick, I just wanted to share a special event that Waverly Road is hosting. You may not have even known they're hosting it, but we are. We are hosting as a member of the Tennessee Kids Belong Northeast Faith Leaders Coalition. The Northeast Faith Leaders Coalition has been meeting since about August. It is under the umbrella of Tennessee Kids Belong, which is under the umbrella of America's Kids Belong. Tennessee Kids Belong is the ones that make the videos about the child saying what they enjoy doing and that they're adoptable and things like that. But more than that, their job is to connect the churches in the area that can provide support to the foster community. So they started this coalition, and I've been attending. I think we just meet once a quarter. So we've met probably 3 times, I think. And she said at the last meeting, she said, I really want to do a caseworker appreciation lunch. This month is caseworker appreciation month. So I said, well, we have a beautiful fellowship hall. I think that would be just fine. And so here it is. We're going to be doing that. Fazoli's is catering, and I was able to get a mini grant from our missions committee to cover the food. So that is fantastic.
Hey, Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
In a few minutes, and we are getting close to 8 o'clock, I want to make sure that we'll have a little bit of time for questions if anybody has questions. So.
Oh, that's fine. This is my last slide.
Okay.
There might be one more after this.
Good deal. Thanks.
These are just some future things of what we're hoping for Smile one day. We talked about those teens and really wanting to fit in, and we want to help more with that. And we know the styles of teens. You've seen them, and I know some are appalling to you, but that's what they want. And that will help them blend in. And I don't know if they wear half the stuff we send them. We try our best with their preferences to get them what they'll wear, but they need to shop. They need to pick out their own things. The little kids don't care if we pack them a bag. If it sparkles and it's pink, the little girl's going to love it. But the teenagers are a whole nother story. So eventually we want some space that they can come and shop. Adding more closets in the future. Washington County's got one now. Talking with somebody, maybe Carter County might get one. To have one in every county would be awesome. New programs under the Smile umbrella, support groups, parents' night outs, things like that for the foster parents. The birthday room is something I really want to do because the children in foster care get sent, I think maybe like a $20, I could be wrong on the amount though, so don't quote me on that, a gift card from the state. Usually Cap the Gap will sometimes step in there. But a birthday room would be where they could come and pick out their own toy. So some things that the church can do about it being this whole foster community problem that we have in the state of Tennessee is just supporting the ones that are in the foster care system, working for it, having the foster friendly services, taking the trauma informed care training. which a few of us did at our Sunday school educational meeting, and reach out to the other communities. There are services that are in touch with foster families. So if we don't have any foster families right now, Kate Stubbs doesn't have any kids right now, you know, we can reach out to others in the community. That's it. I'm going to stop sharing with me so that we have room for questions.
That's awesome, Rachel. That's just an amazing amount of organization and work, and it's just amazing that foster families last at all with all the obstacles that they have to, all the obstacles and hurdles they have to leap and go around and conform to. Do foster families, after they have, say, a certain period of time with children, or a set of siblings, or you know, however long they get to keep them, do they keep coming back for more? I mean, is this
Yes, usually. Obviously, it's going to depend on their experience with the children. There are some that have, you know, kind of extreme behavioral issues. You're supposed to be told that ahead of time, though. What level the children are given levels. They're a level 1, a level 2, a level 3, based on their traumas, abuse history, and their special needs. But generally speaking, the foster families that we work with, we have a lot of repeat customers with a whole bunch of new kids all the time. We see them come in and go out. They may have them for a weekend while Uncle Joe comes down from Indiana, like I said, or they may have them for a year and a half, like our friend Eva at the Tennessee Baptist Children's Home. She is got 5 kids right now that she's had for over a year, and they're getting ready to go back to their biological family. They're little ones. Don't know how it's going to go. It's going to be real sad. But they're going to take more. The need will always be there. And there's not enough people meeting that need. So clinging on to the ones that we have is super important to keep them doing it.
So you've said that there are some support groups for foster parents. I mean, is there enough of that? I mean,
No. Kingsport actually doesn't have one right now. Hawkins County, I believe, has one. Greene County has one. There are Facebook groups, mostly, which it's a place to go get information. It's a place to go and vent to some other foster parents or things like that. It's really, I have an interesting position because I'm in those groups, even though I'm not a foster parent, because I can offer things to them when they have physical needs and things like that. But I can see both sides because I'm in caseworker land and I'm also in foster parent land. And I can see where the caseworkers are getting blamed for everything, even though the foster parents know the whole system is messed up. They do. But in the moment, it's the caseworker, Joe, hasn't contacted them in 2 days, and they asked for this request, you know, so long ago, stuff like that. But I don't even know if I answered your question.
well, and I assume that it would just, if they had face-to-face support group meetings, that would take time away from the children or family.
That's okay. The bonding time needs to happen right when they first get the child, and that definitely needs to happen. And they probably wouldn't, you know, go out a bunch when they first get a child. But the support after they've had the children for a while, they need to go somewhere with other foster parents that has some place to take care of the children.
I was
During
about to
that
say,
time.
if you're going to have a support group, it would be nice to offer childcare during that time.
Need it. That Grand Friends network that I mentioned under United Way strictly for kinship, they have a support group, but there's no childcare available,
Mm.
and their attendance is pretty low
Yeah.
because they just don't have the means, the resources. We actually talked about them coming to Waverly Road and using our nursery area and things like that. And maybe I would be their liaison and have it in the meeting room or something, but they didn't have anybody to staff to watch the children. And really, we don't either.
So Rachel,
But-
you mentioned, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
you mentioned that it's not uncommon for children to have to move 3 or 4 times in the first 12 months. What's the major driver for having that frequent change in foster family?
Well, that change was referred to as disruption. And disruption can have many, many causes. It can be that one of the foster children has become aggressive or violent towards a biological child. It could be that they're new foster parents and they didn't know how their biological children were going to react, and it's not good.
Yeah.
And then they think, well, we got to watch out for our kids, which is definitely true. I'm not judging for that. Then there's health issues. A lot of people that foster are older. They've already had their kids and gone and done, and there's just some health issues that come up. Somebody has to have back surgery. You can't take care of the kids anymore.
Yep.
I've heard all of those multiple times.
Rachel, I have a question. Did you say that they have to visit a doctor within 24 hours? And if that's true, how in the world do they get an appointment? Are there doctors? Are there doctors that make themselves available, or are they paid by the state? How does that work?
No, that is a really good question. I actually don't know the answer to that one. I would assume that the TennCare providers, the ones that accept TennCare as an insurance, probably do have something set up with the state where they have to accommodate emergency checkups, essentially.
My bet is the case workers have a list of doctors who will take
Yes.
children like that pretty quickly.
That's my guess as
That's
well.
pretty amazing in and of itself.
It is.
Yeah, right.
Because
It is.
these guys and girls are, the doctors are very busy people, and how do they? I'm not sure I understand how they do that, but I'm
Well,
glad
you could
somebody
also go to
will.
urgent care. You could go to an urgent care because you're really just getting it documented that a physician has looked at the child. They've already come with these bruises. They were already here. This has already happened.
Yeah, I
That
understand
sort of thing. It has to be documented.
But with all the trauma of getting a new child, having to take one to urgent care or ER or something, that's just adding trauma on trauma.
Yep, it is. It is just part of the
Yeah.
brokenness. I see the need for it as well. But again, it's the state covering their butts
Yeah.
Well,
because
and
they
it's
are liable. These children are
honestly,
now
the
wards
the
of
foster
state.
parents need that backup
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, they
Protect-
do.
yeah.
I understand
they do.
that.
Absolutely, they do. Yeah. So it's not ideal, but
Rachel, I just want to say thank you for the work that you and your group does for families. Our children and grandchildren did not receive that kind of support in Kentucky, and they were often on their own. It was people here donating clothes that we were delivering to them a lot of the times that gave them those clothes for the next size. So thank you. It is a tough job. God bless those who foster. It is a very difficult job, especially when they hit puberty and then their personalities change. So it's thank you.
you're very welcome. I just fell into it, like I explained at the beginning. I didn't know anything about foster care. I didn't know anything about all these acronyms I've had to learn in the world, but termination of parental rights and TPRs and all kinds of stuff. But I definitely see the need. This is a very behind the scenes service, so we never actually see the children that we serve.
Yeah.
Which is hard. That's hard sometimes.
Rachel and I have actually discussed just that thing, and we're kind of torn between being thankful that we don't see them because I think it would upset me to thinking it would be kind of nice to see them. It's a double-edged sword, really. And what I find is when I'm packing a bag, and I know that Rachel does this too, when I'm packing a bag for a child or 3 or 4 siblings, I find myself praying the entire time, for that child and for the situation that they're in and for the family that's taken them in and for the family that they've been removed from, because it's hard on everybody. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, are there any other questions?
Not any in the chat, are there? I couldn't actually see the chat when I was screen sharing, so I just wanted to make sure
yeah.
nobody knows.
So yeah, I was looking. So Paul did say, "Great work, thank you very much."
Oh. Thank you, Paul.
So I do.
But I'm.
Go ahead.
I do want to pull up one thing real quick before we close. Except it's there it is. So on our church website, if you go to the missions tab, you can pick either close to home in the region or throughout the world. And you will see in the close to home, we have Smile featured right here, and you can click for more information. And also at the very top of this, you can click on the interactive map of locations. It shows where all of our missions are around the world. Whoops. And you can see here in the Prospect House is Smile.
Yeah.
And again, you can click on the photo for more information. So if you have some time for not only for Smile, but for all the ministries and missions that we support, check out the church website.
I do want to mention one thing that is Smile is going to be helping a software program called Care Portal. And it's already in the country all over the place, but it's in Memphis area and Nashville area right now, and they're looking to bring it here, and they called us to try to help bring it in. But anyway, it's a software program that all the churches can connect together. So if there's a need that's always free for a church, then they can respond. If somebody needs a bed, they can put it in the system. This person has a bed. There has to be a child at the heart of it somewhere. That's the goal. It's run by the Orphans and Children's operation. But anyway, that's coming, and I will share that more with the missions committee as being a part of that happens.
Okay.
But I'm excited about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank
Rachel, thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
We appreciate what you
Absolutely.
do for the foster community. And I hope that this has given everybody a better idea of what she does on a day-to-day basis. Sometimes she gets calls or messages on the weekends and runs in and packs bags for kids and stuff when it's a ASAP type of thing. And she really is dedicated to it. And I think it's wonderful what she does. So.
Well, thank you all for your support. It's been Waverly Road in general. I'm sitting in a basement with the lights on because of you all, and the house is being used. It's being used. I know it's sat for a long time. And we're like, what are we going to do with it? What are we going to do with it? Somebody mentioned a clothes closet. And we're like, well, who's going to run that? Well, until COVID shut Kinder Music down, I couldn't have done it.
Yeah.
So it's just funny how things work out.
Yeah. Well, if nobody has any more questions, I'm going to close us with prayer. So please bow your heads with me. Father, thank you for this time with Rachel to learn more about the mission opportunities that Smile provides. Thank you for Rachel and all she does in our community. Help us to learn from her example to better the lives of others around us. As we go from this time together, help us to look for ways to better serve you, our community, our region, and the world through mission and through our love for others. In the name of your Son and our Lord, Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 Thank you all. And thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you very much.